All right, welcome to All Access Coaches Corner from Rising Coaches. We are excited to have special guest today, Associate Head Coach Mike Peck from UTSA. Please take a trip to risingcoaches.com, www.risingcoaches.com for memberships, just $10 a month, very inexpensive to invest in your career, networking, professional development, and all kind of great features to offer Rising Coaches. So before I introduce Coach, I'm going to turn it over to Coach Adam Hood, assistant and longtime friend and family of All Access Coaches Corner, and let him intro the intro. So, Coach Hood, you're up.
Awesome, man. No, it's a privilege to be able to work with great people, and I know in this profession sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you don't, but again, I've been blessed to work with a lot of great people, and Coach Peck is second to none. I mean, he's awesome. I mean, he's so humble. You never know all the things he's accomplished because he's so humble about it. And he's so down to earth and so approachable. A lot of these guys that have accomplished as much as he has are not approachable. So when he says, reach out to me or ask me or, I'm here to be a resource, he actually is all that and more. So again, take advantage of guys like that in the business, and a guy like him, he's a rarity to have done as much as he's done and coached as many great players he's coached and developed. And again, I'm just blessed to be able to work alongside him. And go ahead, Brian.
No, that's good. I appreciate it. Got the sunroof too. That's good, Coach. Ready to go for San Antonio Heat.
300 days of sunshine in San Antonio. 300 days.
That's a recruiting graphic right there, right?
Coach Hood, I got your payout for that nice intro right there.
Hey, it'll be on your desk when you walk in.
Diaper money.
I love it. Yeah, so I'll piggyback Coach Hood and just reiterate the same sentiments. This business is filled with lots of different coaches who all have different decorated journeys and different accomplishments. But for Coach to have accomplished what he has and to be, I'll talk about the person first, similar to Adam, just high character, hardworking, humble, things that come to mind: integrity, character, down to earth, everyday guy, strong convictions about doing things right, but at the same time, doesn't think of himself as too big, even though he's accomplished some big things. So just from a basketball standpoint, has coached at several different levels, did a great job at Finley Prep. I want to say 5 years, Coach. Is that right?
Yes.
5 years, top 10 USA Today, I believe 7 or 8 McDonald's All-Americans, along with being a college coach at other places other than UTSA, like UNLV, has also been a head coach in the G League. So just a great amount of wealth. Has coached the #1 draft pick. I've coached against him not only at Lamar and got to steal a win before they really got it going there at UTSA. And then, when I was at UTEP, also got to coach against him as well. Did not necessarily come out on the winning side of that. But those guys have done just such a great job turning around UTSA. I know they're going to continue to do great things there. Father of 2, husband, and just all around skilled basketball coach, developer, recruiter, offensive mind, understands winning and just about the right things and will help anybody at any point in time. He's been tremendous to me in my career and doesn't have to be, and really reached out, even though we were in the same league, really reached out at a time where he didn't have to and was very encouraging to me. So I just say to anyone on this call and anyone that maybe sees this later on replay, just feel free to reach out and understand he's the type of person that actually wants to help in this business. So all that being said, I'll let Coach say some opening words and then we'll get started.
No,
you don't have to pay me, Coach. Don't worry.
Well, thank you. I appreciate those kind words from both you guys. It means a lot. I'm a coach. I'm a ball coach. I'm fortunate and blessed, to be in this position and to be in this profession, doing what we love to do and have a passion for. So much of what we were able to accomplish in the places that we've been is just opportunity. When you get an opportunity, now you gotta produce, but nonetheless, so many people are involved in the success that I've been able to experience in this profession. And it's not anything that, I've been able to do by any means alone. No way, no how. And that's just the name of the game. That's the nature of the game. Even if you're a player, it takes a team to have ultimate success and to sustain it. And, I've just been fortunate in the people that I've been able to work with, work for, work around, and the players that we've had and currently have and will continue to have moving forward. It's just a blessing. And, I'm just a regular guy. Everybody, I remember during some of my time at Finley, guys would be like, every time they'd call or email, "Oh, I don't want to bother you, coach. I know you're busy. I know." Some days, yeah, we do get busy, but some days it's like, no, I'm not. I've got a gap here. I've got, one thing that's, I think is interesting is we've always done it, when I was with Coach Kruger at UNLV and Coach Henson and I were there, and even here we do it. It's when people email us, everybody gets those random emails from kids and coaches that want to play. If it's not addressed specifically to us, we might not respond to it. But if it's addressed or it's to one of us coaches, that person or those people, they're getting a response. Coach Henson will sit there and reply to emails. He'll answer his office phone and spend 15 minutes on with somebody that, is trying to get recruited, or, hey, I know a kid. Can you look at it? Coach Kruger was the same way. We used to laugh about it. Sometimes we hear him in the office. Coach, who was that? I don't know, man. Not sure. Some kid from Reno, he's interested in maybe walking on or something. So, but he spent like 5-10 minutes of his time on there with him. That's just it's what we're accustomed to. It's what we've done. It's what we'll continue to do. And, there are times when it might take us a while to get back to you, but if somebody calls or writes or emails or whatever, you're going to get a response out of this office. That's just how we do things, especially if it's a general though, and you're sending it to 400 coaches or something. And it's like, hey coach, or to whom it may concern. Well, that's different. But if it's specifically naming one of us or all of us, it's getting responded to. So that's something that we've always done. And I just know we'll continue to do it because they took time to do that, and I feel, we get emails too all the time. One thing that I do respond to personally is young guys that are in coaching that want to be GAs or looking to get in or get on and want an opportunity or just want some advice. I've always taken the time, if they specifically send something to me, I respond to them. It's important to me to do that. And I'll continue to do that. And I'll give out my email address. It's mike.peck, P-E-C-K, @utsa.edu. Feel free to email me any questions, anything you want, handouts. I'm not going to do a lot of screen sharing with documents here, but I've got a ton. I was going through today and yesterday, just getting ready for a little bit for this. And it was good for me because I found some stuff that was really good that kind of brought back some memories, but was stuff that kind of rekindled the fire for me in some areas. And it was really healthy for me in terms of the fall and going into the fall for us. So that being said, I told Brian this the other day that I've always liked, I could sit up here and go over, this is what we do in our half court defense, or this is what, kind of stuff we do offensively, and that's good stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. But I've always felt that these things, you tell us or you tell me what you want to know. You know what I mean? Ask questions. Don't put it in the chat or whatever you want to do or however you want to do it. I want to give you what you want to hear, what questions you have. I'd rather this be more of a discussion and interaction. I like that it's a smaller group because that way guys can ask questions and get them answered. But also to talk about some things that are going on in our world and our profession and talk about the profession and navigating the profession, I think is important. And this will be real. One of the things I was part of last year in Minneapolis was the Collegiate Coaching Consortium, where they selected about 30 assistant coaches all over the country. And we got together for a day and a half with ADs, search firms, agents, different people to talk. And they talked about the profession and basically, preparing to become a head coach. And it was phenomenal. One of the search firm guys said, he goes, look, take out your pen and pad. He goes, get ready to write this down, because what I'm about to talk to you about for the next 30 minutes, nobody will ever say it to you. They'll never say it to you. It will not be public. I'm going to tell you things that are real. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to be honest, and it's going to be real talk, and it's not going to be politically correct. It's not going to be stuff that's fluffed and make you feel good. It's the truth of what really and how this really works. So that's what I think you all need to hear. I think there's specific stuff that a lot of people say that's just kind of generic, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I'd like this to be an opportunity for you guys to really hear stuff that's valuable to you, and that you feel you walk away with this getting something good out of it.
Yeah, that's awesome, Coach. And that speaks to the character and the everyday guy that we talk about, as far as you guys actually responding to emails and then making stuff available. Just kind of piggybacking on where you go, what you just said, we'll flow right into what would be your advice for your younger self starting over. Obviously, you've already accomplished a lot of great things in your career that many would wish to, and even sitting in an associate head coaching chair, one seat away from a head coaching chair. I believe personally, selfishly, and biasly that you're going to be a head coach at Division I. But what advice would you give yourself kind of if you had to start over again?
Well, my dumb ass, I would say take that GA spot at MSU in '93 when your coach that you played for asked you if you'd be interested in doing that right before Izzo and those guys got it going. But no, all kidding aside, there are opportunities that came across my way that just timing wise weren't right, that I just, and at that time getting out of college, I was burnt out. I went to a business school. We were on terms. So there were 3 terms. It wasn't semesters and it was business, it was accounting, economics. Economics was my major. So when you had an exam or something to do, you turned around right the next day and you were on it again. There was no gap. Like usually in semesters you have something, and then you have 1 or 2 of those class periods where you can kind of catch your breath and not in the turn. So for 4 years I was doing that. And I was just spent. I was just burnt out of school. And when he said that, I was like, masters, oh my gosh, it's going to be harder than my BA. I'm not interested in going to school. I'm done. I'm going to go do what I'm supposed to do. I think get a job with my degree. I was a pretty good student. So I passed on that, but I didn't know. And I don't regret it. One thing I will say, I have not regretted any decisions in terms of my path that I've made. Because obviously, every decision that I made put me here where I'm at, where I believe and I feel I'm supposed to be, and where I love it. And, so one thing I will say is, and a lot of you already have it, who's in your circle? I'm a low key guy. I don't have, I always joke about this. People always say in our profession, my guy. Oh, that's my guy. Look, I don't have any guys. I got 3, and none of them are in this profession. One's my brother-in-law, one's a college teammate, and one was a high school teammate of mine. We're on a text string. We sound like we're about 13 years old in some of the stuff we exchange, but that's what we do. And, but those are my guys. In this profession, I have people that I'm close to, obviously, good friends, but, I just don't use that, and so like when you have opportunities that come up in your profession, who's your first call? I got 2 calls. First one, obviously, is my wife. That's a no-brainer. I love her to death, and I'm interested in staying married. So that's got to be my first call. My second call is my mentor, the guy I played for and worked for 5 years after when I got into the profession. And then after that, there might be some other calls depending on the situation and what opportunity is in front of me. But those are the 2 I make. And, I think it's important that you guys have that. And some guys might have 4 or 5 that they make. That's all right. But you got to identify who that is. One, you want confidentiality, but you also want people that really care about you and that can give you good, sound, solid perspective on whatever that opportunity is that you're looking at and considering, and give you another set of eyes and another set of ears for it. I think that's important. So, you've got to. That's the big thing, is who's in your corner, who's in your circle that you can count on to help you and help you navigate the profession.
No, great answer, great insight, Coach. The part about that you talked about is so true is who is really invested in you, right? Because you can have conversations and you can feel like somebody's close to you, but if they don't really know you and if they're not truly invested in you, it's really hard for them to give you advice that may actually really help you. So I appreciate you saying that, and that was an awesome perspective. Tell us a little bit, Coach, if you had to say, just kind of, so you've had a lot of success and you've been a head coach with pros. You've been a head coach with guys that will eventually be pros, but high-level guys. This one's kind of just my own field question, but what would you say attributed you to being comfortable in those settings? And then also, what would you say was the factors that allowed you to be successful in leading it, not just at regular success level, but top 10 success? And again, being named the G League head coach is not something everybody gets the opportunity to do. So what would you say if you had to say?
I think players, players are smart and they have great a great sense of, and a great awareness of people that they deal with in terms of when it comes to basketball and in terms of coaching. So number one, if they can sense, feel, see, hear, smell your passion, they have an appreciation for that, so they're going to, they're going to have a certain level of respect right out of the gate when they sense that from you. Mm-hmm. Then aside from that is your level of knowledge, like I always, when you're you better, John Wooden, learn your craft, be able to teach the game, because if when you're out there in between the lines and, you're an assistant or whatever, and you give, your head coach gives you an opportunity, a 4-minute segment to do something, you better know what you're talking about. You better be able to put your guys in whatever drill or get them organized and be able to tell them, because if they have a question, you better be on it. You better not be stumbling, because they can sense that and they know that, and you will lose credibility if you don't. And so that's how you build it. The thing I think guys sense that with me is, I had a passion for it, one, and two, I felt that I really spent time learning the game during my time as a Division II assistant, and just immersing myself in it. It's a shame, because I look around now and I think who I learned so much from, obviously, was my mentor who I played for, but he was a little bit of a disciple from, Don Meyer, the late Don Meyer, who was passed. And Meyer was he had his academies and he had clinics. And so, that was just basketball heaven. You could learn so much from him, and I did, and I was fortunate. I took advantage of it. So I think, knowing what you're talking about, and, having a passion for it, and then, being able to execute it, and communication, with those guys, how you say it, it's, I think Kevin Eastman, I heard him say once, you got 7 seconds. You got a 7-second teaching. If you're going to stop them in practice to teach them or to coach them, you got 7 seconds to make your point, because after that, you're going to lose them, so you got 7 seconds to get it across. So that's why you got to be efficient with your terminology and your phrasing and how you say it, but in a way that they understand it, and that's on you to figure out. So that takes in a relationship. You got to have relationships with guys. You got to invest in them, invest time with them, whether it's rebounding for them and doing stuff with them and watching film with them, texting them, calling them, grabbing a bite to eat, with them. That's what our job is. And that's what you got to do. And, that builds and gives you credibility, because that's what you want, is credibility. Now, I was fortunate, one at UNLV, one of the guys that spent a ton of time with, he just wore me out in terms of on the floor workouts and wanting film, was Joel Anthony. And, went and played for the Miami Heat and made a lot of money. I think he had 10 years in the league and won a championship with the Heat, and they loved him. And so that was my first real pro, I guess you could say, in terms of that level. And, he was great. And what that does is that builds your credibility, and then obviously going over to Finley and having that success that we had, and those guys, now you've got instant credibility with the next group. You know, it's easy to coach after Tristan Thompson and Corey Joseph and Avery Bradley leave when you went 33-0. The next guy comes in and he looks at you sideways and rolls your eyes and say, oh, okay. All of a sudden it doesn't work. Well, it worked for those three guys, and they were, you know, first round draft picks. And then it gets their attention. So, you know, that helped. That, you know, you got to build up the credibility, but you got to have a passion for it, and they got to be able to sense it. And it's got to be genuine, and it's got to be real.
Yeah, credibility, consistency probably goes with that credibility of what you're talking about. I think that's definitely something. And just kind of last kind of freestyle question, Coach, but I think there's a perception, right? There's a perception that if you have pros or if you coach pros, that you almost have to be this certain type of coach or this certain way that maybe is looked at as cool or perceived at as like, oh man, that guy's so cool. And not that you're not cool, Coach, but that wasn't the reason why you had success. And so I guess if you can speak to kind of the outside perception myth, it even happens in college basketball too, right? People that don't coach college basketball, they see the NCAA tournaments, they see the Sports Center highlights, they see the suits, they see the transactions that happen in the offseason. They don't understand there's something that's really simple about coaching really good players, like you said, discipline, consistency, knowing what you're talking about. So I guess to kind of add to the question you already answered, what would you say to that and how you were able to have a real comfort level in your own skin, but yet still have those relationships? But it doesn't have to be so for show. It doesn't have to be so what is perceived to be so cool. It just matters the quality of it. So if you don't mind, talk to that a little bit.
Yeah, I think a great question. I think number one, like I've always said, you got to be authentic. You got to be you. You got to be who you are. You know, you can't try to be, you know, you can take ideas and tweak them, but you've got to, the delivery and the execution of it has got to be you. It's got to fit your personality and, you know, the way you communicate it and get it across. It's got to be you. So that's number one. And then the other thing is, I think I always say, what are your non-negotiables? What are things that, you know, like guys at Finley always used to know, two things that weren't up for debate that we were going to discuss or negotiate at all is conditioning and defending. Those two things you know, don't bring to the table. Don't say, well, coach, no. If this was the plan from a conditioning standpoint, they knew not to even go there. And then you're going to guard. You're going to guard or you're not going to play. You know, we would do shell every day. There were days when it's like, especially early in the season, in the fall, we'd scrap the practice plan and we'd spend, you know, easily an hour just in shell because it needed to look the way I wanted it to look. And if they didn't, then we were going to do it until we did. And that meant if we scrapped, you know, some offensive stuff or some scrimmage stuff at the end, so be it. We're not moving on until we get this right. And they knew that. So, you know, again, though, that list of non-negotiables, I don't think you can have, I always say, in my opinion, I think it can be like 4 things max. You know, 3 is probably more ideal. If you have anything more than that, then it's kind of like, oh my gosh, every single thing you got too much. Now you're losing them, you know, and I just don't think that's realistic. So, and then you got to stand firm in those, and they've got to know that. And it doesn't become, you won't be in a tough spot if you are truly passionate about those things. And then you need to be an expert in those things as well. You know what I mean? You've got to be able to execute those things, and you got to know what it is you're doing, why you're doing it, and they've got to sense that from you, and that you know they'll respect that, and you know, and then you got to hold them accountable. That's the other thing that can be tricky, especially with you know younger guys. Sometimes it's accountability is something that they don't want to deal with, and they, you know, for example, in my 5 years at Finley, and I think about it probably once a week, there's one specific instant where in all those years that I go back and I do look at and I say, if I could go back, I would do it different. There was an incident with a kid. He was a McDonald's All-American. He did something that was just, you know, he's kind of defiant in a game almost. And we won the game, and the next game was a big game. It was a national game. We were playing Dorian Finney-Smith out in Virginia, and I was like, we got to have him. We can't. But in hindsight, I should have benched him and switched the lineup up a little bit, and we would have been a better team. I'm convinced we would have been a better team that year. And that was our worst year at 28-4. And we got eliminated the first round of the national deal. And I always look back and I say, had I done that, I believe in my heart of hearts we'd have been better that year. And I just felt like, we couldn't, because he was our McDonald's All-American that year. And so I compromised, and I shouldn't have, but I did. And that's the one and the only time during my time there that I did that. And I regretted it. So stand firm in what you got to state what they are. You guys got to know it, and you got to stand firm in it. And you can't waver. You can't waver. That's the important thing.
Awesome, Coach. Awesome. We'll get to even more good stuff about your career, but let's talk about your family real quick. Let's shift gears. Kind of go maybe 3-part question, but feel free to just run with it. So the quarantines obviously changed all of our lives. So tell us something you've learned or something you've experienced with your family, and then tell us about your family in general. And then from there, just kind of tell us your background in coaching and how you your stops along the way and how you've kind of gotten to where you are.
Yep. First off, I want to start by saying this. Write this down. Some of you guys, younger guys, won't know this. Steve Hartman works for CBS, I believe, and he does a segment. He's done it for a long time called On the Road. Basically, young guys won't know this. He used to go with producers and he'd fly somewhere in America and, different states. And let's say he's in Iowa, and he'd drive to this country city or whatever, and he'd stop and at a phone booth, and he'd take the phone book, which is like, they're usually like that thick, and he'd just close his eyes and he'd pick a spot in the phone book in the middle of it, and then he'd close his eyes and he'd point to somebody's name, and he'd get that phone number. He'd call that person. He'd call him and say, "Hey, I'm Steve Hartman with CBS On the Road. I'd like to come over and talk to you if you don't mind." "Oh yeah, okay." So he'd come over, and basically that was his story. He would put together a report, and they would air that weekly. And basically his point was, everybody's got a story. If you dug, he would ask them questions and find out, oh my gosh, this guy's grandpa was a World War hero, or, invented something or did, and then he would take off with it. But the point was, doesn't matter where, doesn't matter, everybody's got a story. And so, I say that because, I'm going to get into a little bit about me that I don't think many people don't know. People close to me know, but that they don't know. I'm married. We'll be married 24 years this October to my wife, Terry. 2 children, a daughter and a son. Our daughter's 21 and our son is 11. And there's a big gap there. And the reason is our daughter is a special needs child. She is 100% dependent on adult care, wheelchair bound, nonverbal, cannot do anything for herself. She, as far as feeding, she's still in diapers. She's about the size of, if you looked at her, she's probably, you'd say, she looks like she's maybe 7 or 8 in terms of her size. She has a mature look about her, but she laughs and she'll cry, but she's nonverbal. She's never going to tell you, "Hey, I'm thirsty." So we developed a feel to give her stuff. She does take stuff by mouth, soft foods, pureed foods, and she's got a feeding tube. So she's got a whole host of health issues, which she's gotten so much better as she's gotten older. But it's a chromosome anomaly called 18q-. It's a genetic thing. It was a fluke. My wife and I both tested. It was just it was an act of God, and she was a blessing sent to us. And that's kind of the way we've looked at it. She's, one thing my wife has always said that I think so awesome is, in her 21 years of life, she's never spoken a word, but has impacted more lives than I ever will. And she's taught us lessons about life and patience and so many more things that she teaches us that we can't teach her. So she's been a blessing to us, and she's an angel. And our son is 11. He's the other side of the spectrum. He's all over the charts. He's loud. He's funny. He's a goofball, but he's funny. He's a hooper and plays a little football too. So he's a decent little athlete. But that's our story. We're low key. My wife is very good in her career. She's she was the director of marketing, and then she got bumped up to the station manager at the Fox News affiliate in Vegas. And so she's done really well for herself and has a great job, and she's really sharp. And I married up for sure. So that was the sign of my ability to recruit. But anyway, that's my family, and they're in Vegas. They live in Vegas still, never moved away from there. So I'm kind of give back as much as I can, which is great. I recruit that area. Thank goodness it's got talent there. And Coach Henson's great about letting me give back when I need to, but it's hard. It's not ideal. We don't want to do it this way forever. Hopefully, we won't have to. We don't think we will, but for now, we make do and figure it out. So, as far as basketball, I got started third grade. In third grade, I'll never forget. I went and watched my cousin. He was 4 years older than me. He had a seventh grade game, and when I left that night, it was it. He was good. He was a really good player. He actually was finished just shy of. He could have beat Magic Johnson's scoring number for scoring points scored in high school in the state of Michigan. He ended up with 1,986 points, I think. I think Magic was just over 2,000, so he was basically his average his senior year away. But after I watched him in seventh grade, that was it for me. Man, he hit some shots. Crowd went, I say crowd, there's probably 50 people, but it was loud. And I loved it. That was it for me. So I got home and I was like, yeah, my dad put a hoop up that probably the next 4 days. And I remember coming home from school and the hoop was up. Took my first shot in the driveway, air ball. And the rest is history. No. So anyway, small town. I grew up in Gaylord, Michigan, small high school. Went on, played Division II basketball at Northwood University, was an academic All-American there. Knew I wasn't going to be a pro. So I did what I thought you're supposed to do. Midwest, blue-collar family, get your degree, get a job. So I went to the business world and did that for just a little over a year and a half. Hated my life. Hated it. Just was like looking at the clock going, you got to be kidding me. I don't care if you name me CEO and pay me $1 million a year. I'm not doing this for 40 years, the next 40, 50 years of my life. I'm not. So I made a couple calls and I said, I got to get back. Went back to the league I played in, to Saginaw Valley State University. It was a non-paid, saying this to make a point, non-paid GA position to get my master's. Did that for a year. Fortunately, jumped on as an assistant back at my alma mater, which is in the same league. And I made $16,000 as a full-time assistant at my alma mater at Northwood. And then the following year, guy I played for took the head job at Saginaw Valley State, where I got my GA. So I jumped back with him, and I got a massive raise as a full-time assistant. Went from $16,000 to $16,500. I had my master's, finished my master's, so I was able to teach a couple courses in the education department to make, a little bit here and more. Got close to 20. So I was living the dream. And then from there, 6 years basically at the Division II level as an assistant. I was like, I don't want to be a D2 guy the rest of my life. I wanted to move on and go to the Division I level. And opportunity came up. Fortunately, the guy I worked for and played for was good friends with John Hammonds, who was the director of personnel at the Pistons at the time, who's now the GM for the Magic. They used to, because my coach used to be an assistant at Tennessee, and John was an assistant for Charlie Spoonhour at Southwest Missouri State. So they always crossed paths in the recruiting room. They built relationships. So we used to go down and see John and those guys work out in the spring. Long story short, call Charlie, see if there's anything. Boom. My wife had an opportunity in Portland or Vegas. Vegas was the better opportunity for our family. She took that. We came. I wore out Jay Spoonhour, just calling him, telling him, hey, is there anything, I'm just planning on being in any practices or workouts, whatever. Well, It just so happens Derek Thomas, the assistant there, takes the Western Illinois job and takes their video coordinator with him. Boom. I jump in. Jay says, yes, let's do it. First, here's what prompted Jay's call back to me. So I'm in Vegas. We moved to Vegas. We're living in temporary housing. I drive out to Boulder City to a place that sells mannequins and stuff. So I asked the guy, I called ahead of time. I said, I want a right arm, just the right arm of a mannequin. So I went and picked it up. He laughed. He said, what are you going to do? And I told him. He laughed. Oh, my God, that's awesome. So I took it, got a box, put a note in there, and said, Coach Spunar, I'm willing to give you my right arm for a spot on your staff. I boxed that sucker up, sent it to him. He got it, laughed, gave it to Jay, said, call him. So Jay calls me. I go in and talk. Long story short, boom, opportunity was there, a video spot. Now you're thinking, oh, man, this guy's D1 at UNLV. He's making bank. $3,700 my first year. I'm married. I have a kid. That's what I made. Do that for 3 years. Charlie steps down mid-year. That year, Jay takes over as the interim. Fortunately, Coach Kruger comes in, retains me, makes the position actually a little bit better. So it was a lot better than that, but it still wasn't anything that, was great. And then from there, I'd always told Coach Kruger, who was great, and I said, look, I'm a coach doing the video stuff and I don't mind, but I'm not a video guy trying to be a coach. And so he always respected that, put me on the floor as much as he could and had me in all the meetings, and I was involved in all facets of it. So it was great for me. But after about 3 years, I told him, I said, Coach, if you hear of anything that's out there that you think might be a good fit, an opportunity for me, I'd appreciate it if you help me. I'm just ready to get out of this role. And so he's like, yep, it's all right. And that's when Finley Prep came up. Boom, jumped over, did that. It was like lightning in a bottle. Had success pretty fast, pretty quick. Took off. It was a great time there. Had a lot of fun. There's a lot of work. Wasn't as easy as just playing games on TV and winning. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into that. But it was fun. And then the next thing you know, Portland Trailblazers call, and they used to call every spring just to get their intel on the draft. So they would call about kids that not just we had, but kids that we played against. And when I was working the NBA Top 100 camp or working the Nike Skills Academies, I'd see those kids and spend time with them and coach them and stuff. So they would ask questions about them. So we had developed a little bit of a relationship there over the past few years. And so they called and the summer league, watched the summer league game with them because they asked if I was going to be there. I said, yep. And he asked, said, I'll come over and talk. Where are you at? I go, Thomas Mack. I'm watching Jorge Gutierrez play, and sat down with me for about 2 hours and we just talked. And he was kind of feeling me out, asking me some questions from a career standpoint. And, okay. So I answered, we talked, and that was it. And that was in July of 2012. Summer goes by, we're ready. School starts at Finley, and it's September, and they call again, and they're going to have a D-League team in Boise, Idaho. And they're like, when they call, they said, want to know if I'd be interested. I'm like, so then it was just fast. From when they called to ask that, the next day I was on a Skype interview with the whole front office and Coach Stotts and you name it. It was like, whoa, okay. So that lasted about 45 minutes. 4 hours later, Neil O'Shea, the GM, calls me and offers me the job. Tells me he's got to know by tomorrow at 7 a.m. Like, okay, let me go home and talk to my wife, which I'd already talked to her about it. I knew I was taking that thing. At Finley, I was at that point where I was ready for that next challenge, that next thing, and a guy like me, I didn't have ties to the league, didn't play in the league, didn't do any scouting, nothing in the league. Here's an opportunity for me to get in there. I'm doing it. So sure enough, I did it. Great 2 years, phenomenal experience with Portland. And then obviously coaching the Stampede, learned a ton and really liked it. Got away for 2 years from the recruiting, chasing guys going to class and the academics and the parents and the AAU and all that, the handlers and the mentors. And it was just you could just do ball, practice, games, film, boom. awesome. And I got to spend the whole month or whole preseason with Portland, traveling with them and on the practice floor with them up in Portland each year and summer league. It was phenomenal. So that was great. And then 2 years, they decided they weren't going to do, they weren't going to have a G League affiliate team. And so that ended that. I sat out for a year, figuring out, do I want to keep going the NBA route, keep pursuing that, or maybe, get back to stay with college. I learned a lot in that time with Portland. It was great, but it's different. Coaching there is different. And I just felt more comfortable and accustomed to the college side of it and the cycles of the work in the seasons and all that stuff. And I said, that's probably where I'm a better fit. And so that's what in that year I went around and visited some schools and spent some time at colleges and just watched practices and talked to coaches and staffs and stuff. And just kind of did that thing and did one thing that I thought I would never in a million years do. Coach AAU basketball. I get a call in the late or early spring of 2015 from Anthony Brown, the Las Vegas Prospects. Asks me, let's meet for lunch and breakfast. All right. I'm thinking, there's no way. So we spent about 2 hours talking about it. We're going EYBL, you can do, and I'm like, okay. He told me, we're going to have a pretty good team. We had Troy Brown, Marcus Howard, and Charles LeBannon, building around that group. And I was like, okay, that's high level talent. I'll get back on the floor. And it gets me visible back out in the game. So I'm like, I'll do it. It was fine. What sucks is you don't get any practice time. You might have 3 guys at practice or something, and you just can't. So your games, you're trying stuff in games that you should be doing in practice. But nonetheless, we qualified for Peach Jam in the first year. It was great, a success. I enjoyed it. I had fun because I was back in the game. And then after that, I got late in that summer, Santa Clara. Kerry Keating called, and I went up there and checked that out. And it was getting late, so I said, I need to just get back in. I don't want to be 2 years out. So I jumped in, kind of knowing that was going to be a one-and-done year. I just kind of had a feeling based on their track record and how they'd been doing the past couple of years. And then the new AD, Renee Baumgartner, came in. And I was like, ooh, yeah, I can see the writing on the wall. But I just wanted to get in there. And I did. And then sure enough, Coach Henson and I have kept in touch ever since our time at UNLV. And he called that spring, and that was when they went to the Final Four with Buddy, and he had opportunities. And I was like, yeah, just let me know. Sure enough, long story short, UTSA pops. He goes, what do you want to do? And I said, we talked to Terry about it. And I knew I was going to do it. It was Coach Henson. So in a split second, I was like, yep, I'm in. Great. So here we are, 5 years later, starting year 5, and couldn't be more fortunate and blessed to be with this group that I'm with doing what we love to do.
Yeah, what an awesome story. Thanks for breaking all that down and sharing so much, Coach, and just sharing about your family too. I know most people probably don't know that, and appreciate you opening up to do that too. That was awesome. Yeah, so much stuff I could probably piggyback on, but I'll save it. We'll go straight to UTSA, and then we open up for audience questions. I'll fill a few in, fill in the gaps some. But tell us about UTSA. Okay, so you make this ride. You've kind of been to UNLV. You've been some different places, Santa Clara. You've been to G League. Tell us about UTSA and what makes it a special basketball situation for you guys.
Well, number one, I think it's genuinely there's good people. There's great people here in the administration and the other staffs. And it's, it's very high character, people with integrity, very down to earth people. He's very approachable, no egos and no smugness. It's just, that makes the environment and the culture here just so great. It's the 7th largest city in the U.S. So it's a great area, great spot. Love it here. Great weather. It's growing. Campus is we have 30,000 students, over 30,000 students here. By walking campus though, you wouldn't feel that because you can go from one end to the other in probably a 5 to 6, 7 minute walk. It's not like 20 minutes. Oh, I got to get over here to the east side. I can't. No, that's not like that. So that gives it a smaller feel, which is nice. But I mean, I think it's great. They're building a $40 million race building, Roadrunner Athletic Center for Excellence. And they broke ground on it already. Trucks are up there pouring cement and digging and doing all that stuff right now as we speak. So that's pretty exciting. That's got about a 14-month window before they're done. And that's going to be phenomenal for us. You know, it'll help us with office spaces and practice facility for us and locker room and all that stuff. So it's much needed and long overdue. And, you know, football benefits from it. And like, when football does well and benefits, we all do well and benefit. So that football is a cash cow, and we need that to take off and do well. And the more success they have, the better off we're going to be. So.
Yeah, great place to be. Probably most coaches' favorite place for Final Fours too, or one of them at least, because it's such a great city.
Yep.
Love San Antonio. Tell us about Coach Henson. Obviously, you go back with him all the way to UNLV, have known each other for a long time, and Coach Henson's another one of the stand-up, phenomenal human beings in the business. Obviously, was a really good player himself in the NBA, but would love to know, as a coach, you know, I've seen it firsthand as an opponent, but tell people that don't know Coach Henson 3 things that make him great as a head coach.
One, this isn't one of the 3, but one is he just X's and O's is like, so him and Coach Kruger, you know, I remember being there, you know, it's like, sometimes I'd be like, okay, they're talking so fast and they know what they're doing because they'd spent so much time together, but you kind of you can get intimidated, feel like, golly, man, I don't know what they're saying. I can't follow them. And then I go to the G League and do that for 2 years. I'm like, okay, so I'm coming back thinking, yeah, okay, I'm gonna be able to hang with these guys a little bit in terms of so I go watch them practice when they were playing at the MGM in Oklahoma, and they're talking a little bit on the court afterwards and stuff. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm gonna be able to hang with these guys in terms of understanding and knowing and stuff. It wasn't 2 minutes, and I'm like, golly, you gotta be kidding me. So it's the technical part in X's and O's is just off the charts. I mean, almost like a savant. And so that is huge. But the big thing, secure, humble, and integrity. He's not arrogant, has no ego, but he's so secure. Here's a guy who played in the NBA at 6 foot. You know what I mean? But he's so secure, but he's not arrogant about it. 2, he's so humble. If you walked in, you would never know that, you know, I played in the NBA and played overseas, and he never, you know, I mean, he's a legend. He's a Kansas State Hall of Fame. I mean, so very humble, very down to earth, humble, and integrity. We are going to do the right thing. Favorite quote, says it to Hood all the time. Got to have rules in society. Got to have rules in society. We're going to follow the rules. You know, we have compliance staff meetings here. We sign off on stuff, you know, for head coach accountability. And, you know, we're going to do things by the book. We're not bending. We're not twisting. We're not cutting corners. It's going to be and you know what? That's the right way. That's, you know, for us, it's the right way. And that's the way we're going to do it. And that's, you know, he's a Midwest guy. I'm a Midwest guy. I think those values were similar in a lot of ways in our thinking and our approach on things. And we're just going to do what's right. And that's why I'm so fortunate.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, he embodies that. He walks that. He is that. I love the Martin Luther King quote, "The time is always right to do what's right." And I think that's 100% what you guys are about. I love it. So, tell us a little bit about the staff, and then I'll give you 2 of them, and I'll get you the last 2. But what's one thing you love about you guys offensively and defensively? And then tell us about the staff too, in any order you want.
Offensively, I think one of the things that's great, and you know, Coach Henson, having played for Coach Kruger and been with him for so long, it's just, you know, he's kind of osmosis. You just take on that type of thinking and that approach. And one thing that they've always done that's just phenomenal is adjusting to your personnel. Instead of saying, this is what we do or run, here's what I like or we like, and making your players do that. even though you might not have guys that can do that, he always tweaks it and adjusts. Like, for example, the year we took over, when we had a 6'4" undersized post player that was like an ISO guy that wasn't athletic, Jeff Beverly.
Jeff Beverly.
He's the one that could score. So we ran stuff at the pro post spot, the mid post off the lane line for him. You know what? We're not running anything right now the last 3 years that we did that first year, because it wouldn't have matched. It didn't fit our personnel. They wouldn't have been able to do it. They wouldn't have been successful. So that's what he always tweaks, what based on who we have and what they can do, and playing to the strengths of each of the players. So that's offensively what has been great for me. Defensively, just philosophically, again, like in a lot of ways, is I love the fact that he's a man guy to begin with, man to man. You know what I mean? There's more of how he sees and wants to play man defense is more how I see it, and philosophically it matches. So that just makes it so much better, because there's no conflict internally that I have with stuff. You know what I mean? And he listens. You got suggestions, and he'll ask, and he listens, and he takes your input, and and sometimes, like today, he came in and said, "Hey, for individuals, you got the defensive. Come up with a drill, whatever you want, and just run with it." So that's what's great, and that's what I love. As far as our staff, Coach Scott Thompson, he came with Coach Henson from Oklahoma. Scott was the video guy at Oklahoma. Scott's a hard worker, big time values and faith. He's all about family and faith. He could sit there and he could talk you in circles on scripture. And to me, some of it's intimidating, but some of it's admirable. I kind of envy that, because I'm not as well versed as he is in scripture. And that's something that is appealing to me. But he's just gonna, if you really needed something genuinely and sincerely, you could go to him and count on him. So that's huge to have on staff. Hood, as you know, Coach Hood, he's an academy guy. He's like family, because his brother played for me. Antoine, his older brother, played for me in the D League. So that's kind of how that connection happened. And he's an extension of Antoine, and it was easy, and it was comfortable, and an academy guy. He gets it. And he's high character and good person and works and smart. So it was, to me, it's like one of those, it's kind of just like a no-brainer for us. Coach Lester's our ops guy. He was here with Brooks Thompson when we took over, and Coach retained him and kept him, and he's been great. He's been fun. He's loyal, and he's very, like I say, he's easy and comfortable to have conversation with and to hang out with. Yep. He can do it all with him, and you can speak very freely. He's not a guy that's going to get offended. He's not a guy that's you got to be on eggshells around. He's going to speak up, and he fights for us on campus for stuff. We're kind of, a lot of us are kind of like, yeah, we don't want to ruffle any feathers or stuff, but he's the guy that will do that. And I've always said this: if it weren't for us, there's some stuff that wouldn't get done for us, because he pushes and pulls and prods people. Cale Brubaker's our video coordinator, hard worker, receptive to work. Never, hey, Cale, can we do that? We might throw 4 things at him in a meeting. He never kind of goes, he never pauses. He goes, yep, no problem, yep. He never hesitates. So, and he's smart, works hard and he's smart. Pretty good combination there for him. And then Taylor Luster is Coach Luster's son. He's our GA. He took after his mom. I always tease him and I go, that's a good thing. He's calm. He's got good poise. And what I love about him from my standpoint is he played college basketball, Division II. So on the court, hey, Taylor, you're going to set a pin down, or you're going to, I'm going to throw it to you on the wing, you feed the post. he can execute basketball things. To me, that's important. I like guys, if they're going to work with me on my end when we do the guards, I need a guy that can pass. I need a guy that understands, hey, set a flare. Instead, no disrespect, managers work hard, but there's some that just, they don't have that feel, and they don't understand because they haven't played. And that's not a problem, but it just requires more time for me to teach them and coach them in addition to our players. So Taylor he knows, he picks it up and he can do it. So he's been great in that regard.
That's good. It's no wonder why you guys have the success you've had, because you have such quality, talented guys, and then you guys have just a great chemistry. You pretty much had the same staff 4 or 5 years, correct?
Yep. No, everybody stayed.
Yep. So an enormous amount of chemistry, and I know Taylor's probably the only one that's recent, but he's coaching there with his dad, so I think he probably fit in pretty easily. But no, great staff. It makes sense why you guys have had a success. Tell us 2 more things that you love, and then I'll have a bonus one for you. 2 things that you love about how you guys do in recruiting, which I've also seen firsthand, the talent that you guys have brought in. So it's no shortage there, and it's not a place that probably people saw from a perception standpoint in recruiting. They probably didn't see UTSA as a destination, but you guys have made it a place that's become really cool for high-level players, not just, oh, that guy's good enough to play at UTSA. It's like, that guy's not good enough to play at UTSA. They have guys that are, I think you have the combined highest scoring backcourt in the country, 2 guys that average 20 a game, and have acquired some more talent on top of that for this next year. So recruiting, and then secondly, in your culture, what's something that you love?
Recruiting wise, I think what we do is we kind of refer to it as gang recruiting. So a lot of times, there's a point person. So I'll be recruiting certain guys, and I'll probably know more about those guys, but we all know, about all the guys. And so it'd be nothing if Coach Thompson comes to me and says, hey, he's on FaceTime with a kid, and he hands the phone to me, and I end up talking to the kid for 15 minutes, So we'll gang recruit. We'll all recruit, because it's important when they get here that we all have a certain level. I might have a deeper, more longer relationship with a guy, but when he sees Coach Hood and Coach Thompson, he's not going to be like, okay, who are these guys? He's talked to them through the recruiting process and on the visit, and he spent time. And so there's a familiarity with all of us. And I think that's really important. And, like I said, there's going to be a point guy just because of the nature of that's how it works. But we all try to jump in and recruit everybody. And we try to get to know each recruit and their parents, just because it's just important. We talk about family. If everybody talks, oh, it's family. Well, then you better know. Your brothers, your sisters, your mom, your dad, right? Well, if you're going to say family, then you better know them. And that's why we do it that way. And I think it appeals to people. Some people don't really care, which that's fine. But for us, it works. And that's just how we approach it. And then culturally, kind of to extend with that, we do what we have small groups. We've done it ever since, we were at UNLV with Coach Kruger. Each coach has about 3 or 4 guys that they are assigned, so to speak. And what you're supposed to, you kind of keep up with those guys academically, and you spend time with those guys, off the floor and stuff. We usually meet on Sundays with them, and, we address the whole team, and then, hey, get with your small groups, go over your plan the week, academically, what are you doing, here's practice, whatever. And then just, I'll grab a guy, say, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? Okay, I'm going to pick you up at 7 at the dorms. I'll grab you. We'll go get dinner. So I'll take them off campus and we'll grab something to eat. Just to, hey, what's going on back at home? How your folks doing? We just do that, and that's not, we haven't reinvented the wheel there. I think a lot of people do that, but for us, that's important. We've got to get to know your guys, and they got to know that you care about them outside of just basketball, and, invest in that relationship, because they're going to be with us for 4 years. Hopefully. And that's, and the other thing that we do is we make sure that in our small groups, we call or write to their parents regularly. It might not be every single week, but every couple weeks, we're reaching out and texting or calling saying, hey, just want to let you know, everything's going good. He's doing well. Yeah. Classes seem to be going well. Practices and getting ready for, start conditioning or whatever. He's doing fine. Just wanted to let you know, just checking in like that with the parents. That's big, communicating with them. And their AAU coach or their high school coach if there was a real strong connection or relationship there. Just keeping that kid's circle informed of what's going on and up to date. So I think those are things that are really good that we do that I would continue to do if I ever had, when I unfortunately take over at a program or get a head job myself. That's something that I would definitely do.
Yeah, we talk about it a lot as coaches. We are what we emphasize. So if you emphasize family, then you have to act that way. If you emphasize a togetherness, so in your recruiting and in your culture, says a lot about what you guys are doing. And I think it's awesome. I'm a firm believer in recruiting. Once you recruit the circle, keeping the circle a part of the family, communicating, keeping the lines of communication open, because it also helps you hold those guys accountable and encouraged. Because there may be going something on at home that you find out that your player won't tell you, and it helps you understand what's going on with them better, or vice versa. There may be something going on in school that he doesn't want to say at home, and he's telling you everything's great, and it's like, no, he's struggling, and so then they have to kind of step in and help. So it just helps when you have a strong village and you guys recruit high character guys, so they have a great character group around them. So it just helps to keep everybody in the loop. So again, I'm a big fan of that. I love that. And again, no wonder why you guys have had the success with it. So my bonus question, and then we'll open up to the room and have questions, is I love the player development side of basketball and the teaching aspect of it, and just seeing guys go from here to the next space. So what's something that probably in your entire career, this is, again, a bonus question, but that you feel like has enabled you to develop some of these great players that you've had at the pro level, McDonald's All-Americans, and obviously you have, Keaton Wallace, for example, is a guy, people knew Jackson could really score, but Keaton Wallace, I loved coming out of high school. I'm from Dallas. He's from Dallas. Evaluate him as like, this kid is a natural because he's an elite three-point shooter. And when I evaluated him, he had ball skills. He could play in pick and roll. He could pass. He could make decisions. He had a feel that you can't teach. So, one, I know you guys are really good at evaluating, but two, just how have you been able to, as yourself personally, excel in the category of player development?
Yeah, great question. I'm glad you asked that. Look, you talk about player development. That's a word that, again, I don't want to bag on it, but it's so overused and just, a development guy. He's a player development guy. Well, look, I'm just going to tell you this. I know this in the NBA. Being that you watch guy, you know what that guy is? You know what he's doing? Good job. Nice. Oh, that looks good. He's rebounding and passing to the guy. You know what I mean? And that's a development. And again, that's important because there's a relationship. But look, is there any, those things that people put on Twitter, these crazy trainers making this guy put one leg in a big tire and dribble around on the grass and go in a circle. It's like, come on. I mean, cones, and which I like some of that stuff, and it's really good. There's guys doing really good stuff. Drew Hanlon, I think, does some good stuff. I mean, Gannon Baker, all those guys do good stuff, but they haven't, reinvented the wheel. I mean, here's what I always say about player development. Oh yeah, you got those guys at Finley, and those guys were pro. Look, Tristan Thompson was good before he got to us. I didn't just sprinkle the dust on him and, oh my God, what'd you do? But here's what I've always said. Put those guys in a system of play that allowed them to flourish and played to their strengths, but also made them play hard, made them go hard, made them defend, got them in shape. That's, and I guess, some might say, well, that's development. Well, then, okay. Our conditioning program was the most important thing. Conditioning, weights, that's what got us over the hump. And then just the system and the stuff and the consistency of practicing every day. My practice plans were defense came first. They had to know that was a priority. So we did all the defense first, then the skill work, and then we went into action, offensive stuff. So they knew every day. So that was, subconsciously, they knew where the priorities were. Defense. Oh, I know we're doing defense. That's coming for it. And then we'll go skill work, and then we'll get into our offensive stuff. And that's stuff. I think that's the big part of player development is putting guys in a system and allowing them to play to their strengths and thrive within that system. But the key obviously is, having a plan, being organized. I always tell young guys, Adam Schwartz can probably say, where's your stuff? Where's your guys' stuff? You know what I mean? Well, what do you mean? Well, you got all this extra time at night. You guys like to hang around the office. Where is your stuff? Here's your calendar. Here's our calendar for our team. They knew what was going on offensively. Here's our travel. Here's offensively. Here's our terminology sheet. Guys got that before our season started. Perimeter player concepts, low post player concepts. Here's our defensive terminologies. Here's, our gap defense. Here's what we're objectives of it. Here's a brief outline of what we're trying to do. Mental approach. Here's kind of our, phases. I talked about that in one of my calls is, the 5 phases of our program, that we break it down to that goes throughout the year. Here's our scouting. Here's when they're at the house. I have a handbook. They were given a 37-page handbook that went over everything in terms of classes, how we travel, how we practice, how we have games. Maybe it's people call it cover your ass manual, but whatever it is, we had it, and it was all. That's our book. That's our program notebook, and everything was in there. So if you had a question about our program, you reference this, the answer's in there. And none of it's anything that we invented or created. It's all stuff that you've heard before, and but it fit us, and it fit our philosophy, it fit our style of play, and it fit our approach and our execution of how we ran our program. I got meeting notes in here for the first meeting of every fall that we'd have, team meeting. I kept all that. Boom, this is what we want to cover. This is what we went over. It's all in there. But the biggest thing that mine was the approach section, that had the phases, but it also books that I've read or whatever. My favorite book is called Making the Core by Thomas E. Ricks. It's an unbelievable book. I have so much respect and so much admiration for our military, and especially like the Marines, the Navy SEALs, and Bud's training. I read the book. I took excerpts out from the book, and I have, there's just some stuff that I read, and I'd say, guys, I would hand it to them. It would be 2 pages. And I would say, if you want to understand and get a better grasp of me and where I'm coming from and my mindset and my approach to our preparation and our practices, make sure you read this. That will give you an understanding of how I think, what I think, and why I think that way. And we did, some of this stuff, like I said, my non-negotiables, we approached our conditioning and our practices very militant. It was a schedule, and we didn't deviate, and we didn't compromise. I used to say compromise is the first sign of destruction. We just didn't. And some of those things in there, I just think they're so, when I'd read it, I get so fired up and excited. And I just want to make sure, I got to share a couple with you. I just got to, I can't, I was reading these, going over these yesterday.
Please do.
And I got fired up. So in the book, here's one quote. It says, and this was in 1992, mind you, when this guy wrote this book. And this is, so now we're 28 years later. Here's this. A lot of today's kids are the Nintendo generation, spending their lives looking into computers. They're the highest quality recruits we've ever had in terms of education, but we've had to change our physical training to adjust to them. They are more fragile than recruits were 10 years ago. A lot of them have never hit someone or been hit. This is in 1992. Another one. When they mess up at home, they don't get punished, they get explained. The parents, the media, all want to explain everything. Here, you screw up, we stop you and penalize you immediately before you forget it. Boot camp is indeed a kind of war. The recruits aren't the enemy. The enemy is their values, their un-Marine-like values of self-indulgence. Me first, I'm going to do what I want to do. That kind of stuff just gets me fired up. I always read through those right before we go into our preseason conditions. Coach Henson gives me 3 days of what we call boot camp. I want 6 days because I want it to stretch over 2 weeks, but he gives me 3. Yeah. Because he doesn't want me killing them. So,
the part that you kept emphasizing, it was 1992, right? So
yeah,
the part about that is it still applies today.
Oh, exactly.
100%.
Back then they were saying that basically that. Now it's like it's a whole different deal now.
No
I
question.
mean, it's crazy. You know, that's one of the things that, you know, we live in. You know, some of the questions that you'd sent me, Brian, was just. If you think about this, people nowadays in our society, they're either mad, depressed, or offended. Right now, they're either mad, depressed, or offended. And we live in a hypersensitive world in society right now. So my advice, I would caution you on what you say and caution you on how you respond on social media.
Yep.
You know, I had a quote that I wanted to put out there during the pandemic, but I didn't, because before I do anything, I really carefully read it. And I'm just going to read it to you, what I was going to put out there. I saved it, I screenshotted it, saved it, but I didn't tweet it. After seeing, reading, and listening to much over the past 4 months, the most sound and overriding principle in life, as simple as it sounds, appears to be the most difficult to consistently and universally embrace and execute: to do what is right. Here's why I didn't tweet it. Because right. When you say right, I didn't want people to think, oh, he's right. He's on the right. He's not on the left, or he's not, you know what I mean? Between left and right politically.
You wanted to be clear, and it could be misinterpreted.
And people could misconstrue, what is right. Some people say, oh, he's politically, no, he's on the right. He's with and that's not it. So I didn't. So I'm like, I'm not even gonna put it up there, because if one person thinks that, or said, I just left it. But I just felt it was so on point. You know, one quote you said, if you do the next thing right, you're as close to perfect as anybody can be. But right now, I think in our society, it's hard for people to embrace and actually execute.
Yeah, mad, depressed, and offended. So, yeah, there's a lot of truth to that too, Coach, because there's so much that you can choose to be mad, offended, or depressed about. So
yeah,
it's definitely intentional and something you have to work at. To choose joy, to choose to look at things from an optimistic viewpoint. So, and it's a talent, kind of like people talk about guys that work hard or that understand how to win. Is kind of another talent, just being positive every day. Yep. So we'll do this. I know we can keep going all day, Coach, but let's open up. People feel free to ask questions, unmute yourself, tell us where you're from, and then we'll let Coach kind of share some share screen stuff with us before we close. I got one while people are kind of hitting unmute that somebody sent. So Coach Cabral Huff from Holy Innocents, head coach in Atlanta. He said, Coach Peck, I know you spoke on something you would have done differently at different spots, but what do you feel translates at each level you have coached with player development and dealing with culture?
Here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to get on a soapbox on this, because if you haven't guessed it by now, this is exactly how I feel about it. Conditioning is the root of everything. Conditioning is the root of everything. Let me show you a couple things. Think about this. Think about an infant. When they're tired or hungry, they cry. You know why they're crying? Because they can't get past their feeling of hunger or being tired. And that's just the human reaction. You know, when we get fatigued, or Vince Lombardi, fatigue makes cowards of us all. When you get tired and you're fatigued, you can't get past that. So that's when things break down. You take shortcuts. You don't go as hard. You can't execute. To me, that's why if my 5 guys can play long, my best players can play longer than your best players, we're going to win. And that was my thing. Everything, the games had to be real easy. They had to be like when when that last second wore down, they'd be like, that's it? I could go another half, easy. And that's what we wanted to get to, because it was a huge mental advantage. I'm going to share this with you. I was texting Nigel Williams-Goss, who played for me yesterday. I was texting him. He's now with the Jazz. I said, we were talking about how guys, you know, we got back on the court, and guys, you know, it's slow. It's a slow process. They got to get their legs under them and stuff. So I said, we finally able to start working with our guys last week. Their conditioning is horrendous. Not surprised and not too mad about it, but eager to get them back to at least a base level. Here was his response. I'm not going to lie. There's really no reason for people to have come back out of shape. Like, one thing everybody could do was go to a park and run. I don't get it, but I'm glad you're back at it. Like, he couldn't relate, because that, honestly, you know, they were taking courts down, taking rims off park courts and stuff. So I get that. You know, lived in an area where, hey, didn't have a hoop. You know what? You could go outside, lace them up, and you could just run. And he can't relate. And that's why, he took Gonzaga to the championship game, and why he's on the Jazz's roster. I mean, there's a reason, you know, so that's part of it. I mean, I think one of the things Rick Barnes said when Corey and Tristan got to Texas, one of the compliments he said is, when they were going through their conditioning, he said, there's no way these guys aren't freshmen. These guys aren't freshmen. There's no way they can be. Not the way they're attacking this and the kind of shape they're in. And I thought, just from 2 years with us and the way we did things, I thought that was a great compliment.
No, it's good. It's good. Let's keep the questions flowing. We know Coach has plenty more gems for us, so please unmute yourself and go ahead and ask.
I'd love to jump in. I asked it in the chat, but I'll go ahead and ask. So, Coach, we met before, but just for the purpose of the recording, I'll put it out there. My name is Menelik Fernandez. I'm the interim head coach at Fleming College up here in Canada. Pleasure. Thank you for your time. This has been wonderful. You state that conditioning is the root of everything, and I've played for many coaches back in the day that very much had similar value systems. I think currently, at least dealing with the generation that I'm dealing with and the level of athlete that I'm dealing with, there's a lot of thought towards load management, towards not wanting to do punishment running, towards being passively aggressive, towards training hard, all that kind of stuff. I'm wondering sort of what your viewpoints are and how you deal with athletes that sort of bring, like the whole discussion about hurt versus injured. Like, if a player is hurt, can they push through, or are they injured and they need to sit out? Like, where do your lines sort of lie with all that? And how do you deal with players that in your mind, they're very clearly not injured? They're just being passively aggressive towards the hard work that you're pushing out.
Great question. Great question.
Yep. You know, that's, especially now, there's a little bit of a, you know, I don't want to say delicate, but you got to be careful. At our level, we have trainers. We have health people and trainers to our, you know, accessible. So they go through physicals before they get cleared to play and practice and all that stuff. So they do all the heart EKG and all that. And so so they get a full bill of health and a clearance. So for us, it's, you know, that's the cover our butt type of thing. But, you know, one thing that we do, you don't want to, like, we're not going to go run out on cement. You know, we're going to go on turf where there's some give and some cushion. But, you know, I'm going to say, like, Nick Saban, I mean, is one of the best quotes. You know, it takes what it takes. You know what I mean? It takes what it takes. I'm sorry. I mean, here's a great example. One of our guys going to be really talented. Right now he's trying to fight through some of that mental part of it, because it's more, you know, I know it's from Bob Knight. Chris Beard uses it, and I love it. 4-to-1. Mental is physical as 4-to-1. Y'all get that? You know, 4 times. You know, the mental part. Conditioning's mental. You know, we used to do 6 a.m. runs at Finley. You know, and it's like, we didn't do it just to say, yeah, it was 6 a.m. You know, we were out there. No, it was a mental thing. You know, give us a mental edge and a mental component to fight and to push through barriers and walls that they didn't realize they could get through. But you know, our kid yesterday, for example, you know, he's having a rough time getting to the conditioning part, and it's like I said, it would be like one of you guys going up to a guy at the Cadillac dealership and say, hey, I want the new Escalade. I want the 2021 Escalade loaded. And I'm ready to walk out of here with it right now. And he looks at you and he says, okay. And then you say, okay, how much is that going to cost me? And he's going to look at you and go, loaded. I can get you that for $110,000. And your immediate response is, you're mad. You're mad at him. Dude, that's the cost. That's what it costs. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. You want a brand new Escalade fully loaded. It's 110. Now you're mad at the price. You know what? Maybe you need to go down to the Chevy dealership then. You know, no disrespect, but that's what it's like. And another coach, a great saying, don't be mad at me when I should be mad at you. You know, what did you think was going to happen when you came back and we started working out? Did you think we were going to walk through stuff? And as far as injured, I remember having this conversation too with guys. Bryce Masamba, great player, went on to play at UNLV. He's a Swedish guy, played professionally over there at Finley. He'd get hurt a lot. And I'd be like, guys, look, I don't know any other way. And if you have ways that you know of, please tell me and we'll do it. I don't know any other way to practice the game than to defend, dribble, run, rebound, and shoot. I don't know any other way to practice the game than to do those things. That's what practice is. And if you guys are constantly getting hurt doing those things, then I don't know what to tell you. Maybe this isn't the sport for you. Maybe you should try golf. But it's like, don't be mad at me when I should be mad at you. It takes what it takes. That's just what it is. If you don't want to do it, then you know what? Tell me you don't want to do it. Know what it is you're getting into. And then understand this is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. And thank you, Coach. That was just like gem after gem after gem there.
You just got to stand. That's one area that guys even here know that I get fired up. I mean, I was dog cussing a couple guys today out there running, and it was just like, you know what? I can't relate. Here's another one. Write this down. Look, it's a 10-minute video. If you can find it. Good Morning America did it. David Goggin, Goggin. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Look, I'm 50 and I'm in shape. Like I run 5-6 days a week, 4 miles a pop, and I'm doing, 720 miles. This dude, I was intimidated and he made me nervous. And I can't hold a stick to that guy. That's a different level dude now. And that's a mindset. That's a mental thing, But you watch that, boy, let me tell you. That's in his little 10-minute deal, he said, because his background was great. He was way overweight and everything. He made that change and that transition. But when I sat up when I saw the part where he said he was enamored with the Rocky movies, the Rocky series. He just said when Apollo knocked Balboa down and he thought it was over, Apollo was like this and he turned around and Rocky got up in like one of the late rounds and goes, come on. And he goes, Apollo just put his head down and shook it. And he goes, he was done. He was defeated. Rocky had defeated him just by getting back up. And I got to tell you, that stuff, I get fired up. At the hair on the back of your neck doesn't stand up on some of that stuff, then you know what? I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. God help you, because I can't.
Right. Isn't he the only person to ever complete BUDS and Navy SEAL training? And I forget the third one.
Air Force Tactical.
To ever
Air
do
Force
all
Tactical. Yes, all three. Think about that. Some guys get through one and they're like, I'm done. This dude did 3. You kidding me? Phenomenal.
Love it. Great stuff, Coach. Let's take one more question, and then we'll let Coach share his screen and share some more stuff with us. Coach Bethel, you got one over? Coach Malloy, you got one over there? I know we talked earlier. I know you're a basketball guy. You can unmute it. You don't have to be shy, man.
So I'm an assistant at Bethel High School, and I'm fortunate to learn under Craig Breon, who's been there for 20-something years. this past season, I'm learning from a guy named Ed Huckabee, who was at Wright State with Paul Bianacardi and stuff like that, and just a wealth of knowledge. So I'm in a really good spot, and we treat everything like a college. He runs it like a college practice. It's just me and him, and then Coach Breon, the head coach, kind of sprinkles his own little 2 cents in there, but it's pretty much me and Huck. What is your opinion on practices, certain practices going like 4 hours? Because Huck's pet peeve is, no, we're in and out 2 hours max, straight to the weight room afterwards, stuff like that. So
Yep. And one thing that we're at our level, we're careful of is we got compliance. We got limited hours, so we really stay on it. But I do think, when I was at Findlay, it's like, early on, are your practice going to be longer? Yes, because you're putting in your system and you want them to get it right. So, there's some days. I think it is, you can't, kids nowadays, keeping their attention, you're just going to end up getting frustrated and they're not going to give you what you want. So, like, one thing that I remember doing is like telling them, like, when we do something, guys, I don't need to see it 6 or 7 times. I just need to see it once. And then they know you understand it and you've got it in you. So now I'm going to hold you accountable to it, but we can move on. So yes, I do believe in again, I'm not saying 30 minutes, but maybe as the season, tail end of the season, yeah, you want to just get shots, keep them fresh, 5-on-0, whatever. But yeah, I'm not about, we're going 4 hours and we're doing, no, I'm not about that. That to me is like, I don't want to do that because I know what's going to happen. I know I'm going to get mad. I'm going to get frustrated because they're going to be terrible and it's going to get worse. Say we're going to do it long. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm all about, keeping it, getting in what you need to get in and then moving on. Just like you're talking about. Yeah. The shorter you can. Hey, Huck was at Owens Junior College, wasn't he?
I think so. I'm not sure. I'll have to ask him.
Tell him I said hello. Tell him I said hello. I remember he was there. I think he was there with Jim Welling.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to hit him up after this.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the questions. We'll have one more small question segment at the end, but Coach, we'll let you share your screen, or if you want me to show the video on my end first, just let me know.
Yeah. Now look, we got a 60-second video that Brian's going to put up there, and again, it's not really basketball related, but it all is connected, and we'll watch it, and it's funny, but it's not funny.
All right, let me get it up.
Get it?
Hold on 1 second.
Yep. There we go.
I'll just ask this guy. Excuse me, would you mind taking a photo of us?
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody say cheese.
Oh, actually, I'm a vegan. Could you please have us say something else?
Okay, everybody say tofu.
Tofu is actually not as good for you as vegans think. Any CrossFitter will tell you that. It's bad for your testosterone level.
Okay, I'm sorry. How about we all just smile?
Oh, one more.
So,
What's it to smile about anyway?
okay, would you like me to just count backwards from 3?
Oh, would you like dyslexic people to just not exist?
My cousin has dyslexia, so offended.
Adopted. Don't even know what my cousins are, so more offended.
How about this? We all put a word we're comfortable with in our heads and I'll get the shot.
No, it doesn't sound very inclusive though, does it? I suppose you'd like us all to stand a few metres apart, would you?
I don't see what religion has to do with this.
Well, I'm an atheist, so majorly triggered.
Is that a comment on the gun debate? I'm still trying to control people. But it's not just the people. Has anyone thought about the animals?
Look, this is what we're going to do. Everybody throw up a peace sign and I'll take a photo.
Wow. Cultural appropriation is alive and well. Why don't you just ask us to say kung fu?
Guess what? New plan, group selfie, ready, set, go, boom. And looks awesome. You're going to love it. Nice to meet you.
Camera, you stupid cyclist.
Is that not the world we live in right now? I mean, it's funny. It makes you laugh because you're like, yes. I mean, it's just, everything is, we are now, we sit there and talk about, yeah, kids anymore, they can't be social and interact, with, well, based on that, that's the world we want. That is what kids are now, and not interacting and just being in an, it's funny because my staff at Finley used to say, because dealing with all the people we used to deal with in terms of AAU and parents and the school and colleges and recruit, there was times when that would just get to me during the year, and they always used to say, yeah, you just don't, you want to live in an I world. And I'm like, yes, absolutely, I do. I want an I world, and I want to just mute everybody and shut them off, not deal. But to be honest, that's the safest way. That's the safest way, is to be isolated and secluded, because now you can't. Now you don't offend anybody, because really anything you say is offensive, and it's just going to get, you're going to feel it, and you're going to hear about it. And so it's just a hypersensitive world and society. And the same thing is with players, in coaching, you got to be careful, you got to be careful, what some stuff that you say, and it's just now, because it's like they go to administrator, and and I have a hard time with certain things, but there's just certain things I'm not holding back, in practice defense, especially when we're doing defense. It's just, you know what I mean? I can't, I'm not going to hold back on guys. And you know what? Knock on wood, have been okay so thus far. Check back with me after this year. It might be different. There. So
that's great. It goes exactly to that mad, depressed defender you talked about earlier.
Yes.
Great illustration, Coach. Great illustration. I know you got a bunch of stuff over there. I know you said you may want to share one or two things more. So feel free if you do.
Yep. Here, and again, if you guys want this stuff, I'm not going to share it. I'm put it on the screen, but I'm going to read some of the stuff. I just want some good nuggets that I think is really good. Another book. If you guys are into books, I'm not like this big reader. I hope you guys don't sit there and think I'm a big reader. But there are certain things. This is a good book, Grit by Angela Duckworth. Really good book. Really, really, really good book. It's worth the read if you can just peruse it and go through it. But one thing, here's what I want to, for young guys, whatever. I wrote down some things that I had, like 32 things, sayings or phrases that really resonated with me. Bill Parcells said this one, and it was, I know there was a rift between him and Charlie Weiss. So something happened there. I'm not sure what it was, but loyalty and friendship will always outweigh ambition. Young guys in the profession, don't get caught up in the chase. You know what I mean? Don't burn bridges. You don't want to do that. You got to stay loyal. You got to stay loyal to those that, gave you opportunities and stuff. And that's important. And some guys get caught up in the chase just because, and they burn that bridge. And once you go down that road, it's hard to go back. So I think that's important. Three things that I was fortunate with, three important people in my life that I always look to. My dad said, and this gave me great perspective on anything. Things can always be worse. Things, as bad as things are, as bad as days you had, things worse. I remember I ruptured a disc coming out of high school, and I had to have surgery. And so I was going through that moping period, going into my freshman year in college. I was going to be redshirted because I couldn't play. I was feeling sorry for his, and he just got sick of me moping around. He said, "Let me tell you something, son. Always be worse." He goes, "See that guy in that wheelchair? He ain't ever getting out of that wheelchair." And that gives you great perspective. My mom told me, be good to good people. That's the word, be good to good people, and that's important. And then my wife, God only gives us as much as we can handle. He didn't create the storm, but he's with us in the storm, for sure. And that's just a faith thing. I don't mean to get on a soapbox. I don't want to offend anybody, but you know, my faith is very important in my life. Compromise is the first sign of destruction. Leadership's important, basically, is what he's saying. Accountability early on is everything. The longer you allow or tolerate it, the harder it becomes to change or alter it. The game is overcoached and undertaught. You've got to be able to teach the game. That's wooden. Your character is more important than your talent. This was one of the things that I always would say with our guys at Finley, because they were coming from being the man wherever they were, and now they had to coexist with other guys that were the man. It's not about what you want. It's about what we need. It's not about what you want. It's about what we need. I love this one. Richard Branson. Train people well enough so they can leave. Treat them well enough so that they don't want to. That's Dabo Sweeney, you know, his assistants for so long. He kept them for so long, you know, and I know firsthand because my wife's cousin was the offensive coordinator there for him. He just left and took the South Florida head football job, Jeff Scott. But he treated those guys so well. And, you know, his camp money, you can imagine their camps. Oh my gosh, the money they pulled in. Dabo didn't take a penny. He did not take a penny. He used to walk, I had heard at one point, he walked over a $50,000 check to their academic person each year and gave it to her. So, because she knew they needed her. You know, when recruiting visits came, if she needed to stay late, do some stuff. You hand her that every year, she's probably going to be like, yeah, you know what? Coach, that's not a problem. Sunday afternoon at 2, yep, not a problem. What are your non-negotiables? Now, this is what I always used to tell players, and same thing nowadays for even us. What am I about to do or say, and how will this affect our team? Players, whenever you're about to do something or say something, ask yourself things. What am I about to do or say, and how will this affect our team? I'm not a Shakespeare guy, but I thought this was great. Play well your part. Therein lies the glory. Mike Jones at DeMatha. I will never understand why players choose to play a team sport if all they are worried about is themselves as individuals. Larinaga, we don't run offense, we play offense. Listen, here is huge. Listen with the intent to understand, not with the intent to reply. That's Stephen Covey. Listen with the intent to understand, not with the intent to reply. You always hear that some guys when you're speaking, and before you even finish, they're speaking over you. And that drives me nuts. A coach must be what he wants the team to become. That's Alan Stein. The life you live is more important than the words you speak. Here's one for you. Defensive recovery and pursuit out of pick and roll is as important, if not more important, than the initial coverage of it. So it doesn't, you go under, you go over, you switch, the pursuit and the recovery are as important as however you're going to cover it, if not more important than the actual coverage. And that's just effort. Doc Rivers, you can become a star by buying into your role. That's Tristan Thompson. True measure of success is when people around you are flourishing. Don Meyer, you get what you emphasize. Alan Stein, this was a great one. If your presence doesn't make an impact, your absence won't make a difference. The only way to be -less as a player is to be selfless and relentless. There's a big difference between playing and competing. Leaders must model what they demand from people. That's John Maxwell. There's one too, Ron Jersa. I knew Ron when he was with Tubby at Minnesota. He came to recruit. He said one week, Coach Hood and I actually saw him a couple summers ago, and he said, because nowadays guys that love the game. He goes, yeah, we got some guys that love it, but you know, we would like to, and we need to have more guys that can't live without it. There's guys that love it, and there's guys that can't live without it, the game. There's a big difference there if you think about it. You know, we're begging guys to get in the gym and get extra work in. And some guys just ain't doing it. Just won't do it. But that's some of the stuff. I've got a ton more good stuff, some excerpts from those books that I just think are friggin' phenomenal. Damn Few, another book, Damn Few. Another one, Making the Modern Navy SEAL Warrior. It's a great book if you guys want to get into some of that. It's just, SEAL training isn't for everyone. You know, that's what we always tell our guys. It's not for everyone. Winning at our level in our game is not for everyone. You know, before graduation, 78% of the class would likely be gone. That's 7 or 8 out of every 10 in Navy SEAL training would be gone before graduation. A SEAL's mental toughness is more important than his physical fitness. What we teach is pure SEAL. The lessons are simple, clear, and well-defined. They come right out of our basic values. Winning pays. Losing has consequences. Nothing substitutes for preparation. Life isn't fair, and neither is the battlefield. Even the smallest details matter. Our success depends on our team performance. These precepts are driven home constantly. You have to be willing to do more than the minimum. You have to be willing to sacrifice your rest and your free time to constantly improve. Fairness is an irrelevant concept in war. Just tell me how those don't directly translate to how we're trying to prepare our teams. I mean, I'm telling you that it's just, you want to get your guys into a mindset. I'm telling you, you can learn a lot. I have a lot of admiration and respect for our military. And I just think there's such good nuggets out of those things. And I just look at it every year to get myself fired up for preseason. So if you guys, anybody wants any of those handouts, you know, anything that I've got those things listed. I got a ton more. One thing that we do is a recruiting litmus test. It's 13 points, you know, and when we recruit a kid, you know, so there's a lot of guys that spin their wheels recruiting. You know, should we go all in and fly across the country to go recruit the kid? Well, here's the question we got to ask ourselves. You know, so that's stuff that.
What's the best way, Coach, for them to get that? Is that email you? Did you put your email in the chat already?
Hey, take my phone number down too. I'll give you my cell number. I have no problem with guys texting me. 210-214-2513. 210-214-2513. I have no problem with guys texting me or reaching out. I will get back to you. It may take me a second or two or a day or two, but you know, I do respond. I don't just ignore it. And if it's been more than, you know, if it's been longer than 4 or 5 days, hit me again.
Yeah, if you guys will just do this, just if you want to add your email, just put just your name and your email in the chat real quick, and then we'll try to make sure we get that out to you guys, because obviously Coach has some big time nuggets. If you want that, just put your name, email in the chat, and then we'll make sure to get that over to you. Coach, I'll ask one before we open up to the audience again, just to get their questions. But you know, we talked about this in advance a little bit, or at least I sent it to you. But just talking about the current climate, we talked about the pandemic. Talk a little bit about and you mentioned it a little bit with doing what's right. You've said that over and over and over. There's not one thing they get outside of conditioning and how important that is, and toughness, just doing what's right. So just whatever you feel comfortable sharing. Obviously, Black Lives Matter is a really important topic. You know, let's be honest, most of our athletes at our level and at the pro level, at the college and pro level, are Black. And obviously we know there's a lot of different opinions, a lot of different sides. I don't want to make you put yourself in any position you don't feel comfortable, but anything you want to share or shed light on from your stance on this kind of times that we're in.
Yeah. Great, Brian. Here's what I'll say. Black Lives Matter. Yes. Yeah, yes, they do. You know, Coach Henson got a great analogy, because everybody, you know, some people say all lives matter. Well, yeah, okay. but it's kind of like your house is here, my house is here, and Brian, your house is here. The one that's on fire matters more right now. You know, they all matter. They're all important because they're all at somebody's house. They live in there and they got their families in there. But the one that's on fire takes priority right now. It matters more right now. I thought that was a great analogy in terms of explaining. And this is, you know, my mom told me this, you know, here's what I'm going to say. And I don't mean to sound callous with it, because look, I told our guys, we had a Zoom meeting after all this stuff broke and stuff. And I said, look, I'm a minority. You can say what you want. I'm a minority. My mom was Korean. My dad was American. So I'm a minority. Now, I can't credibly or accurately depict or speak on what I have not experienced. So I don't know what, Brian, some of the things that you maybe experienced in life that have been negative experiences. I can't speak on that. I can't, because I haven't experienced it. So I'm not going to try to talk about it. And I'm not going to try to say, I feel your pain. And I don't, because I haven't walked in your shoes. But I think we're in an interesting time. I think we're in a critical and important time in our country and in our world. And I think we are seeing some things happen and continuing to happen. And hopefully that will continue to progress and move forward. But what I do want, and this goes for everybody and anybody, if you think, and I used to tell our players this, if you think you're going to experience a life without pain, challenges, or struggles, you are delusional. You are delusional, because that is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. My mom, I would used to complain, oh my gosh, man, when I'm older, man, I'm not even going to be able to walk. I'm so sore, because I'd work out or play. My mom got sick of it one time, and she said, you think you're going to have a life without pain and without discomfort? You're crazy. It's not happening. It's not happening. If you're going to play this sport and put your body through what you put it through, get used to it, buddy. Basically, suck it up, you know? And that's not what I'm saying here, but I think here's what, and maybe I'm wrong, and you guys tell me this, the whole Colin Kaepernick thing, when that came out, here's what I think, and I firmly believe this. I think prior to him doing what he did and taking the knee, I think if he would have came out and said, this is what I'm going to do or plan on doing, and this is why, I think that changes everything. But for us that didn't know that, and you just looked at it from a perception standpoint, I'm not saying I agree, but I could understand how somebody might be offended by that, because there was no forewarning or explanation. You know, it's kind of like Vinny Del Negro. I heard this story when Vinny Del Negro was with the Clippers, and you're like, Vinny will get back into it. Well, no, he won't. And he did, because Vinny, I heard, used to do, and I could be wrong, but like I asked, I think it was Scott Williams was my assistant in the G League. Scotty Williams played in North Carolina and with the Bulls. And I said, well, why? You know, and he said, I think he had heard that he used, you know, Vinny would do things without communicating to the players sometimes, like change the lineup. And all players wanted was communication. So if he'd have went to a player and said, hey, look, tonight, based on who we're playing and how we played the last 3 games, I'm going to kind of shift the lineup a little bit. I'm going to bring you in off the bench or something. Pros would have been like, okay. You know, most guys have been like, yeah, I got you. Just a heads up, communication. But he wouldn't. And they go into that, and then it'd be like, it kind of surprise them. Players don't like that. They don't appreciate that. They don't like that. So that's, you know, I think if people are given a heads up, then they can understand and be prepared, so to speak. Not that I'm not saying he owed it to him, but I think that would have changed everything. I really do. Instead of trying to backtrack and explain after the fact, and I could be wrong, but I I can see where people were offended, probably a lot like Drew Brees, because he didn't know and understand what and why he was doing it. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, that's good. You said a lot of good stuff, Coach. One thing I wanted to say that you opened up with when you said, so we had a coach on here, matter of fact, Chris Dorsey from Centenary College, head coach, and he talked about what you said in the beginning. You said you don't know what it's like to be in the shoes of a black man. So he talked about his players were so angry, and he talked about they were willing to talk to him, but on their campus, there's not very many other black administrators and other coaches were kind of asking him. So one thing he suggested kind of like in general to people who weren't black was, it's important to establish a sense of I don't understand, a sense of vulnerability to them so that they can now be open and be vulnerable to you. So they're not necessarily going to trust that or feel comfortable. And they may not even after, but it just does so much in his opinion. And I'll just kind of take his words and quote him. But it's so important to establish that as people that are not black so that those young men and young women can feel, okay, this person at least sees me. They understand that they don't know what this is like. So they're not trying to tell me how I should feel or how I should think. So I think that you touched on that was really huge. And then, we've held so Rising Coaches has had now 3 social justice roundtables / town halls. Ryan Price, I think he's still on the call. He was a part of partnering for the first one. And shout out to Ryan for being named one of the top assistants in the SWAC today by Jeff Goodman. But, we've had 2 more after that. And I think this conversation is healthy. The part I would say just to the Kaepernick part is I think Kaepernick's approach, not knowing, was probably I'm going to ask for forgiveness and not permission. Because if you ask for permission, then maybe people try to stop you from doing it. And I think probably in his mind, and again, I don't know, but he stated very clearly afterwards why he did it, which he wanted to call attention to it, right? So Martin Luther King talks about rioting is the language of the unheard, right? So you feel like this topic is not something people want to hear about anyway, so you almost have to draw some attention to it. But hopefully if he did do it in advance, then you'd like to think that it could have gone better. But sometimes in our world, narratives get hijacked no matter if you do it before or after, So, the good part about now, I think, is, like you said, the Drew Brees conversation does happen because he was on this side and now he understands it because he's had conversations. So these conversations are always healthy. Again, appreciate so much you opening up on that because it's not an easy topic. And I know that, you're such a firm believer in what's right. And so I know how much that matters to you. And same with what Coach Henson said. I think I've heard that analogy many times. I think it's one of the best analogies you can give when people almost want to discredit how important this topic is specifically, and somebody else used an example of if it's a sickness, if it's a certain type of cancer, it's not all cancers matter. If you have breast cancer, you want to have attention for that. So, again, all that being said, appreciate you going on a heavy topic. Let's take a few more questions before Coach takes off. We appreciate so much his time. He's dropped so many gems. I think Coach Jackson from Dallas, you may have a question.
Boise Jackson, Centennial High School. Off of one of your colleagues, Adam, on y'all's team who
Coach Jackson, I think your service is kind of going in and out. We can't hear you clearly. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I apologize about that. Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Boise Jackson again, Centennial High School. My question is, Adam Hood mentioned that you guys have a young man on y'all's basketball team who shares a last name with me, right? I'm very fond of the last name, Javon Jackson. And he stated that he's an extreme, and those of us we know that he's an extremely talented scorer, right? Probably one of the best basketball players ever come and wear a Roadrunner uniform. But he mentioned that he struggled on the defensive side, and you mentioned that you needed guys that really wanted to play defense. And my question is, how do you get a guy, right, like a Javon Jackson, to really get after it and defend?
Great question. Here's the interesting part with Javon. Javon is a very willing defender. He doesn't, you know, he'll sometimes get lost because he'll overcommit on helping and try to dig on plays, but he's committed. He's just really, Javon's, as you know, is not real. He's not a big guy. You know, he lists him at 6 foot, but you know, that sometimes it's debatable, you know, and he's really light. You know, during the season, we're trying just to keep him at 160 pounds. You know, off season, he can get up to 170, 172. You know, when you start playing, he's just light. So guys can overpower him and move. They can move him easily. So it's not anything that it's not like he's unwilling. He's just, you know, he's just limited in that regard. In our conference, there's athleticism and size on the perimeter, you know, a lot. And that's sometimes where he gets caught in situations in matchups that he can get overpowered. But he's not a guy that sits there and just puts his hands in his pockets or his thumb up his butt and says, you know, I ain't guarding. That's not, he gets really mad sometimes in practice and frustrated. So we have to, you know, we definitely have to, we make sure that, you know, he just, we keep a close eye on that so that it doesn't just mentally deflate him on that end of the court, because it's not like he's not, like I said, he's not trying, he's a willing defender. He gets limited sometimes in matchup situations.
Good question. Good question. We'll take a couple more before we give Coach a chance to give some closing thoughts, and thank him again for coming today. Normally, Coach, your colleague is one of the best question askers and on all Zooms, but he's quiet today because he gets to ask you every day. So we see Dallas. Dallas is getting big. Hello, Dallas.
Yeah, no, I can ask one. I mean, again, I didn't want to. Obviously, I see him every day, so I didn't want to, take it, whatever, abuse it. But my question would be though, having been a head coach and now being an associate head coach and having been an assistant coach, what are some of the things now that you were a head coach? What are some of the things being an assistant coach? What makes a good assistant coach in your eyes? And what, as a head coach, would you want to hear from assistant coaches that, number one, help you, and number two, kind of not upset you, but you know what I mean? They're like, come on, man, like as a head coach, because some of us not sit over in that chair.
Yep. Great question. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Being a head coach is a lonely position. It is a lonely position. Let me tell you. So being, if any of you can get your hands on this, I think Schwartzy I think he had it. Shoot, he might still have it. He's supposed to give it back to me. Bob Starkey, who's now an assistant on the women's side at A&M, started out as an assistant on the men's side at LSU with Dale Brown. Golly, back in might be the 80s. He put together a spiral bound, The Art of Being a Successful Assistant Coach. Great. And it's not a long read. It's like a little notebook almost, and it's a great read. It's phenomenal. If you can get your hands on that or find it, I think Schwartzy has it. I'll talk to him, see if he still has it or not, but maybe it's in some of my boxes, but it's really good. But one thing I would say is the more, like you say, the more you can take off of his plate, and again, you got to get a feel for your head coach. Coach Henson's he's great, X's and O's. So right now, like our thing is, let him spend and consume his time, because he does. He's watched, during the pandemic, he watched every one of our games, offense and defense, twice. And it's like, oh my God, you kidding me? I can't. Okay, I don't want to watch some of that crap more than, half. But give him the time to do this. You know what I mean? Give him the time to play with his X's and O's and do that, because that's what he's really good at. And now that we've got 4-year guards and stuff, he's got it. So don't. And sometimes your coaches get consumed you know, your head coaches with doing other things and get focused on things that maybe like are not important. Don't worry about that. And there's some things that we have to tell him, hey, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Just you do you. We got this. So don't bring things to him that he doesn't need to know. Only bring things to him that need his attention, that are pressing, and that maybe only need that only his signature, quote unquote, or his voice, you know, needs to address. But if it's not, or something, it's minor, don't even mention it, because he might hear something that doesn't matter, that's not going to impact what he needs to be doing. And the other thing I'll say, and this is, our Coach Henson's an office guy. I'm an office guy. Schwartz, he knows this. I just like being in the office, you know, and again, I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, I'm in here at 5 a.m. We don't leave till 10. There's time in here where I might be looking through social media, or I might be calling a friend or doing, you know, but I just like being around. And, and he's the same way. So, you know, it's nothing during the season where, you know, I'll leave at 9:30 and he's still in here, you know, and we're back in here. He's in here. He's at 6:30 or 7, and I'm not too far behind him. But especially when if you're going through a rough patch and you maybe you're losing a few games or something, be around. Try to be around for him. You know what I mean? Just because it's lonely, one, to be in that seat. But what you do want is you know, I don't want to say this, like, misery loves company, but you want to know that you're not the only one in the boat trying to get the freaking water out. You know, you want to know that your guys are with you. And it's just being there. It's not like you're banging out work and doing. I'm not saying that. Again, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But just being around, you know what I mean, is just him knowing that, you know, I think him knowing that my door was open and my light was on was comforting, because it made him feel he's not alone. We're all in this together, and we're going to figure it out. We're trying to figure it out. And we're doing things that are going to help our program. I think that's a big thing that, you know, again, some bosses, you know, are like, you know, after a loss, they go up there and sit there, and you don't leave till they leave. And they're just going to they're going to make everybody miserable around them. He's not like that. He's not like that at all. You do what you got to do. You know what I mean? You know your job. I'm not going to micromanage, and do, if you got to go, you got to go. If you want to go, whatever. But it is lonely, and it's, you know, he just, I think it's important for him to know that you're with him, you know, and that'll go, I think that goes a long ways. And I want him to feel that way, because I know how that is, you know, if you're sitting like, whoa, you know, am I the only one that feels, you know, and just knowing it's comforting more than anything.
Absolutely. Coach, I think we got 2 more questions. So one's in the chat, and then I'll ask the other one and then let you have closing thoughts. So one is Coach Jackson asks, how will you define UTA's success this season with so much uncertainty? So there's that question. And then the other question I have for you is just, what's 2 things now that you've been a head coach multiple times, now you're an assistant coach for a really good head coach, what's 2 things that you'll maybe do in addition to things that you've already done before, or that you would change the next time you're a head coach? Answer in any order.
You know what? You know, I think being a head coach now, it's people always say too, and this will help answer that question. It's like, you know, do you miss Finley? Do you miss, you know, it's like, it was great, but I don't, because I don't know that you could do it now the way we did it then. And it's not like it's that far removed, you know, and it's different. Times have changed so much in just a short period of time. I just don't, you know what I mean? So you're going to learn, whether you've been a head coach or not, you're going to learn as you go and as you get into a seat. But I don't, you know, the good thing that I'm fortunate is I've been a head coach. So you know, and I'm at an age where I know what I am. I know who I am and what I stand for in terms of, you know, philosophically, basketball wise. I just know. And then it's our job as a staff to recruit to that, recruiting fit. You know, we talk about as a staff, you know, guys that Coach Henson's going to want, you know, mentally tough, high IQ guys that can shoot. He can, the other stuff, I got to be super athletic. We can live without that. You know, Byron Fronin, all-time leading rebounder in UTSA history. No qualms about it. It's his favorite player. Byron this, Byron that, Byron this, Byron that, you know. And, you know, it's that. So we're gonna recruit to guys that we know fit what he can coach and what he wants to coach and how he coaches as much as we can. But now there's outliers, obviously, in anything. But you gotta. That's the important thing is to you know, knowing what fits in terms of that and to recruit to that. So that's recruiting is a challenge wherever you're at. And you know, here's what I should have started with the whole tonight with is I'm going to answer every single question before you ever ask it. And you know what the answer is to all of them? Win. Winning takes care of all the questions, concerns, and issues that you could have if you just win. And that's, I'm just telling you, you win games, everything. Les Whitkey, who was at West Point, was the head coach, and he had an assistant, Les Fertig, who was a mentor to my guy that I played for. And he said to him, and I've said it here because we tried to get more attendance at games and more fans and stuff. And I used to say what Les Fertig used to say to my guy. He had a little Southern draw to him. Don't get your fans before you get your team. That's great. If you muscle up 10,000 people to come and you're not very good in your first year, guess what? They ain't coming back. You know what I mean? So just for win. And then everything comes with that. It takes care of itself. And that's I just think that's important, and that's the big thing. One thing that I think Coach Henson does that I've picked up from him, not from a technical standpoint, but he's phenomenal. He coaches whether we're up by 20, down by 20, or it's a close game. He coaches until the very end, which to me is like, sometimes I'm sitting there, we're done. We're not winning this game. You know, we're down 13 and there's, 27 seconds left. And we've subbed already, and he coaches it like it's a one possession game. You know, he does not rob any of those players that are out there or our team or our program or our university in any way. He doesn't concede. He will fight and compete till the buzzer goes off. And that is very important nowadays, especially in terms of your fans, your sponsors and boosters, and your administration.
And then that second question Coach Jackson had was, how would you define UTA's success this season with so much uncertainty?
Yeah, hard to say. I think everybody asks, you guys think you'll have a season? I think a lot of it's we're waiting on football. Football is see what they do, and then they're kind of going to be the guinea pig. Now, the good thing is our season has some time yet before we start. I think there will be a season. I think it'll look different. I don't know what that different is. But for us, look, disappointing year last year. No doubt about it. We say to ourselves, we got to win. We got to win this year. And by God, if somebody said, hey, you have 2 all-conference guards that are seniors, dude, you're going to win. You know what? We should. We're supposed to. And we got to put those guys in position to have success. Now, we think we've added a couple pieces that are going to greatly help them. But you don't know. We don't know. We don't know until they get out there. I mean, they're new guys. So how are they going to blend and mesh? How quickly they're going to blend and mesh and adjust to what we want to do and to each other? And I don't know. It might happen quick. It might not. But, at the end of the day, we feel we have a core group of guys that can compete with the best in this league, the best teams in this league. If you look at North Texas, who's returning some star power and is going to be pretty good, and they do a great job. I feel like we can compete with those guys from a talent standpoint, based on what we have coming back and what we've added. I don't sit there and go, oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think we'll compete, but I think we can win. We can beat them. We're capable. But whether or not we will, I don't know. It's too way too soon.
Great answer, Coach. Not an easy question to answer. So just last, thanks so much, Coach. We'll let you have some closing thoughts. Next week we have some more guests, kind of Tuesday, Thursday lineup. I know most people know how to follow us, but just want to thank Coach for taking so much time and sharing so much of his journey and so many nuggets. I think I saw a lot of people writing. I know most people got a lot of notes and nuggets from today. So just appreciate it. You have a very unique, diverse, from being a video guy to being a head coach in the pro level. Not very many guys can say that they have that kind of journey at the college level, and then going to pro and then coming back now being an associate head coach. So thanks so much, Coach. It was awesome. Just wanted to give you the floor to have any last thoughts you wanted before we close.
Yep, just a couple things. Two things. Young guys out there, guys that coaching that want to, try to get to the college level or move up in the profession or move on in the profession. I've got a document, I can send it to you. It's quick and easy. I got it ready to go. It's 13 points of, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's maybe not advice, but it's 13 things that you need to think about or consider. And I think it's observations. It's not, it's real talk is what it is. I think you'll enjoy some of it. You might not like any of it. That's fine. But even if you pull 1 or 2 points out of there, I think it's very good. So email me if you want that. The other thing I'll say is there is no perfect job. Calipari has issues in Lexington. I'm just telling you right now, there is no perfect job. Vogel, as good as the Lakers are, he's in LA that is like, he's just shaking his head at. So if you sit there and go, wow, yeah, if I could, there's no perfect job. So you can just get that out of your head. There's always going to be issues and things that you're going to have to deal with. And it's just a matter of, it's like recruiting with a player. What are the players' priorities in recruiting? You know what I mean? And then, he lists them and he's got to go down the line. Some guys, I'm not going to a cold climate. Okay, then you're not going to the East Coast. You know what I mean? That's boom, cut that out. What are your priorities in terms of, you coaching and where you want to coach and, where you want to be and stuff. And you just gotta set, there's gonna be some things that you're gonna have to live with and deal with and settle for. It's just because there is no perfect job, regardless of what anybody says. But I appreciate you guys. I think this was great. I think this forum and what Brian and Rising Coaches is doing, like I said, if I was a young guy getting back, if I didn't have my mentor, my coach, and his connection with Don Meyer, and I wasn't exposed to that, I'd probably be less than half of the coach I am, just because, I wouldn't have learned as much. And, I was fortunate, and I squeezed as much out of that sponge as I could, and I still do. And I think this is a forum and a format that you guys can, definitely flourish in and navigate the profession and get as much as you can out of it, because I just don't know what else is out there now anymore in terms of, the clinics are great. There's some guys, you hear guys speak, you pull a nugget or two out of there, but it's just different now. It's just not what it was. And it would make me nervous if I were to, a little bit, I should say, coming through now, just because I was a technical guy, I also, one of the things that I found so much stuff getting ready for this thing that I shake my head and I say, I wrote that? When did I write that? That actually sounds pretty good. And it was a long time ago I did it. It's not fully complete. It's a four-page document, and it just talks about wanting to be a coach and, the two avenues if you're really just jumping in, the recruiting avenue and called the recruiting avenue and the teaching avenue, the coaching part of it. There are two routes you can go. You guys go the recruiting route, which is fine, but that wasn't, and that might be the quicker route, but that wasn't the path I chose. But I wouldn't have a problem sharing that with anybody that wants to. Just, again, don't hesitate to reach out. text, email, call, whatever you want. I'll answer questions. I'll talk to you. I'll spend time. I spent over the pandemic. Here's the most valuable phone call I had. I spent 3 hours on the phone with a 20-year-old kid from the East Coast who was not in coaching, but was in the analytics part of it, but more on he wants to ultimately get into the NBA front office. Like probably with, I'm guessing like more like salary cap and player acquisition type stuff. Phenomenal. I keep in touch with him now. Unbelievable. He was phenomenal. 3 hours, and he was smart. He spoke so fast that sometimes he wouldn't finish his thoughts, and he was really green. But if there would have been any possibility for us to have anything here for him, I would have done it in a second, because this kid is phenomenal. And he just and I still, from a recruiting standpoint, with especially Division I transfers, and I tested him. I said, hey, do a little thing on a couple of our players. Give me some feedback. And just based on their stats over the years, he wrote up things, and he was right on point. And then there were some things like, well, why didn't you, or why wouldn't you? And there were some things that again, like the analytics part is very good, which Hood's our guy in that. But there's some things the analytics part doesn't tell you, because the analytics part doesn't look at how you spend every day with a guy in practice. And some of those things that, Byron Fronin, like after he did him, he goes, yeah, after his second year with you guys, he should have been a no-brainer first conference for the next 2 years. And a guy ultimately that should be getting some type of pro contract overseas. And he goes, what? What was the deal? What? And I said, he didn't love it. He didn't love it. He didn't put near the time in like Javon and Keaton do. You know what I mean? But he couldn't see that in the stats. He just knew something was off. But it was the 3 hours on the phone, and it was great. So anytime there's a transfer thing, I say, hey, I'm intrigued by, and I look at 2 categories in there, and I pick those guys, and I say, I'm intrigued by these guys. Give me your analysis. Boom. He comes back with like 2-page thing on him, and it tells me yep or nope. It's great. He's definitely a guy I keep his name close, and I'll stay in touch with him moving forward, because I think he's onto something.
Well, thanks so much again, Coach. Like I said, it was really great. Really appreciate you taking the time and opening up and giving us the all access to your career and to UTSA. And definitely know that you guys are continuing to build something great and build on to what you guys have already built. And excited for, if we are blessed with a season, to see you guys do some fantastic things. And just excited to continue to follow your career, Coach. And thanks so much again for making yourself available. I think a lot of people got a lot from this. So thanks so much again. And thanks everybody for joining.
Absolutely. Anytime. Appreciate you guys.